Okay, so in order to understand why you shouldn't make cell phone calls on an airplane, it's important to first have a general understanding of how cell phone technology works. And it's actually a lot simpler than you think. Unsurprisingly, when you use your smart device to make an old-timey live phone call, it works in much the same way as a two-way radio or a walkie-talkie. That's right, cellular telephone calls happen over radio waves. Here's a quick breakdown. Say, for instance, you're on a phone call with your grandmother. Your phone converts your voice into an electrical signal and then sends that signal out looking for the nearest cell phone tower. The signal is then relayed to the cell tower closest to her, sends Grandma's phone the signal, and converts it back into the sound of your voice, which, by the way, sounds so grown up now. So what's this got to do with airplanes? Well, in case you didn't know, the communication systems that airplane pilots use to talk to air traffic control also use electromagnetic frequencies much like radio waves to communicate. So, long story short, aviation safety experts have long been concerned that the radio frequencies emitted by cellular phone calls could disrupt airplane communication transmissions and even cause the plane's navigation instruments to malfunction. Especially considering that while traveling at such high speeds, cell phones have to work even harder to maintain connection with the many towers they're rapidly passing while in flight. And that, my dear friends, is why you can't use your phone on an airplane. I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering, if I forget to put my phone on airplane mode and Grandma calls mid-flight, will the plane come crashing down into the mountains, forcing me to resort to cannibalism? And here's why. According to On Air, a Swiss company that provides air-to-ground communication for many airlines in the Eastern Hemisphere, the idea that cell phones could radiate an energy that interferes with aeronautical systems is based not so much on scientific fact as it is just out of a general concern for safety. In fact, way back in 2008, Air France became the first airline to allow passengers to use phones on airplanes. Amazingly, no reports of cannibalism followed. The hard truth is that very little actual scientific evidence exists to back up the claim that cell phone use could prove damaging to aeronautical communications. So then what's the big deal? Well, there's actually a pretty reasonable and civil answer for that. Organizations like America's Federal Communications Commission claim that although chances are pretty slim that making a call while on a commercial flight could cause serious malfunctions, that refraining from jamming up the airwaves with a clutter of signals is a much safer practice. And it's always better to err on the side of caution. If you've ever been on a phone call while standing next to a stereo and experienced a crackly hum, then imagine how annoying it would be to your pilot if 200 passengers all suddenly called their grandmas all at once. Oh, and it's important to note that these precautions are especially important during the critical moments of takeoff and landing. Not only is it critical to those in the cockpit controlling the flight, but it's also important for passengers to be alert and focused during these moments should an emergency arise.